5 lives were lost, 4 from the same family on this stretch of interstate in Terrell. Police say the driver told them he fell asleep, and there are serious questions about whether that driver and Hope Trans, the company he was driving for, should have been hauling it at all. The driver asked us to conceal his identity, but says he warned Covenant about Hope Trans a week before the crash.
I next day shipped it from Atlanta all the way to Phoenix off of 3 hours of sleep.
A second former Hope Trans driver reached out after seeing our July 2nd report.
They don't care about rules. They just care about dropping off the load and making that money.
Companies like this, they just do not care about the law.
Both truckers we spoke to say they only worked for Hope Trans for a few weeks. The company still has not responded to requests for comment.
If I kept driving for this company, this is how I was going to end up.
For now, Hope Trans is still authorized to haul freight on the nation's interstates.
I think trucking is a very good career.
The world meets nobody halfway. Do you understand what that means?
We don't do it just for us and our families. We do it for you guys.
Every time you walk to the mailbox, you're holding in your hand remnants of a system with blood on it. There's no blood on your mail, but there could be more behind that story than you even know. Stay with us tonight as we look into the very things that officials need to hear to make trucking great again. We've got the big truck makers like Daimler, Volvo, Paccar, throwing California into federal court over emissions rules they say are impossible to follow. We've got a Connecticut trucker scratching his way to $100,000. Wait till you hear what he uses it for. I like feature stories like tonight, but a story like that is a feel-good story you really need to hear about. And lastly, our feature story, which is WFAA's investigation, just as you saw, the lead in to a high-risk trucking company. A lot of you have heard about it, but I'm going to get involved in a way most others don't, and we're going to talk about this in a way a lot of others are too afraid to get involved in. Hope Trans involved in a crash that killed an entire family, yet somehow they kept hauling U.S. mail freight until just recently. Falsified logs, oversight failures, and the big old loopholes that are big enough to back a double into. So my question is, if you can answer it, put it in the comments, or call our studio lines, which we'll publish here in a minute. How does this happen? Who's responsible? And more importantly, what is it going to take to make sure no other family gets taken out by a rig that should have been parked for good? That's where we're going to go tonight. Buckle up, because we got a lot of road ahead, and it starts right here on the front lines. Another day, another story, just like that. Greetings, truck lovers and truth seekers from all over the United States of trucking. I'm your host, Boss Man, and I welcome you to Truckin' Frontlines, 860-785-3547, your pathway to clarity. The channel passing 1,500 subscribers, one of whom I met today in Rafine, Virginia. Danny, if you're in the audience, thank you for being a loyal subscriber. I welcome you to the show. Man, I'll tell you what, you need to do more to keep them hubcaps on the side of your truck. That's all I'm going to say. I welcome y'all. If you've got ideas for stories and you'd like to know more about the story or my viewpoint, email us at thatstruckinnews@outlook.com. That's truckinnews@outlook.com. I'm your chief executive of the Truth in Broadcasting Network. whose sole purpose is to bring truckers and professionals in line with what I call the one road, one code philosophy that sets us apart from any other industry. Together, with the conversations we have here and on other shows on this channel, we can make trucking great again. All of the videos on this channel are increasingly receiving more and more comments from all of you in the audience. I take time and I enjoy the commentary and I welcome it. So much so that I designed a tier of membership just for the occasion. Called one of them, after my idol, Rush Limbaugh, the Ditto Head membership. Members get priority releases on videos earlier than subscribers, and they're also recognized for their contributions earlier than anyone else. They're given early release privileges on videos. They go out a little sooner than everyone else. They're also recognized for other things as well. A tier higher is our elite level of membership, having, in addition to all the aforementioned, copies of some script notes if I have them available, and something new I'm starting and haven't quite finished yet is our monthly newsletter. If any of that interests you, please go down below, consider helping to support our channel, click the join membership. I'd love to have you. Just one click, and you can help me bringing this to you on a regular basis. Enjoy the perks, just like Griff USMC in our audience tonight. He is our first and premier Ditto Head member. So to you and everyone else in the audience, thank you for being a loyal part of my subscriber base. Let's be the right show, and let's start rocking. What do you think? First story on the agenda tonight. I'm going to give credit where credit's due. This comes straight from Reuters, San Francisco Chronicle, which have been tracking this one closely. 4 of the biggest names in trucking: Daimler Trucking, Volvo, Paccar, and Traton. They filed a federal lawsuit in Sacramento to block California's 2023 Clean Air Partnership rules. In their court filings, the OEMs say the state requirements now clash directly with federal law, thanks to the rollback of the EPA waivers they were originally based on. These manufacturers claim they're stuck in what they call an impossible position, facing state penalties if they don't comply, but federal pressure to disregard those same standards. The lawsuit aims to get clarity once and for all. And it's not just about California. If the courts rule one way, it could reshape emissions policy across the entire country. One of the conversations Danny and I had earlier today was about the differences in the numbers of states and their different positions. As you recall, last week I put out a video on this very topic, and there's 17 other states that are liking to join with California in trying to push the mandates for electric vehicles and the enforcements on an EPA requirement that, as of now, is unenforceable because of these recent verdicts. Now, if you remember, we first covered this. One of the things I said was, we need one standard. And I've been saying that about a great many things. So I'll just cut to the chase. I'll keep it short. It just isn't about just emissions. It's about predictability. You can't run a fleet or build the next generation of trucks when the rules change halfway through the game. 1 minute you can do one thing, then next minute you can do another. Recently, it was publicized on Mother Trucker's channel that there was a change in how the D-rate conditions were going to be set up on these trucks. That was another thing that came out of recent rulings. So we're going to talk a little bit about here, but I quickly mentioned it because now it turns out, based on what has recently come about in that alone, put down in the comments if you think this is as hypocritical as I think it is. It turns out we didn't need to derate these trucks to begin with. Let me know what you think about that in the comments. I'd be interested. Make no mistake, whether you run one truck or 10,000 trucks, the fight between Sacramento and Washington is going to decide the cost, availability, and technology of the rigs we're all running for years to come. And it'll also decide how easy or hard your lifestyle is. I'll have more on this lawsuit. Might be first real pushback we've seen in a long time later on in the show. But for now, I want to ask you in the audience. I want to know more from you guys, the drivers, fleet owners. Should one state have the power to dictate trucking rules for the entire country? Let me know what you think in the chat. Let's get to the guests and see what they think. Evening, my friend. How's things up north?
Oh, it's going pretty good.
Good to hear. Good to hear. So what do you think of the question I asked? Should one state have the power to dictate everyone else's profitability, feasibility, or life in general? What do you think?
No. No. They shouldn't, because, well, a good example, the way we live up here is a lot different than they live in California. So why should I have somebody who's probably never been to where I live, ever visited, dictate how I live up here? I mean, it's stupid. This has been going an ongoing battle with California for shit longer than you and I have been alive. I mean,
very true. Very true.
They think they own their own. They think they rule the country. You know what? Let them be their own country. Let them wreck their own government. I mean, I don't know. It's stupid. It's stupid.
Personally, I think they've got way too much power, and I think it's kind of gone to their head. You know, I mean, it's just my personal opinion, but it all comes back to the red versus blue fight. You know, when one side of the aisle has total control, they run up a set of rules that's designed to do nothing more than pad the pockets of the people that they have in their constituency. That's all it is. They're feeding their folks. And then the power flips, and then it's back to, you know, another set of standards. So I'm not calling out Democrats or Republicans. I'm simply saying the system we have is designed to be exactly what it is. And it's putting everybody under the bus.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you go back and look at the presidential election a couple of years ago, most of the state of California was red until, you know, LA, the bigger cities, they're the ones who dictate that country. So why should certain cities, like I said, again, it goes to our whole argument of why should we have somebody dictate how we do stuff out here on the road if they've never been in a truck? That's the same situation.
And we've had that fight and that argument on this very show a number of times, because I am of the opinion, and call me stupid or old school, whichever comes first, but I'm thinking if you're going to really, I'm thinking if you're going to occupy a leadership position anywhere in an industry, you have to at least know how that industry works. Derek Barr's perfect example. He's worked with cops. He's done a lot with commercial enforcement, but it's been from the law enforcement side. He's never spent a day in a truck.
Yeah.
You know, and I could frankly go on with tons of examples. You know, Sean Duffy, he's been great in the media. He's even, you know, been great as a congressman. But I don't think he's got any truck history or, you know, anything on his resume. I don't think he's ever spent a day back here like us.
All talk, no walk on what actually goes on out here.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I like Sean. He stands for a set of principles I can agree with. But I think they're better served when we have someone in the place that has some experience. So Anyway, I don't welcome a couple more guests. Grumpy, what do you think? I mean, do you think somebody needs to drag California down a notch or two? What do you think?
Well, I think I've said this in the past. California has way too much pull and influence for the entire United States through our government, and they have had it for years.
Right.
As far as changing and things like that.
Right.
Do I agree with it? No, I don't. Because we have our federal capital, which is supposed to be out there on the East Coast, and here we have a state out on the West Coast that's almost like they become our federal capital and they're running things the way they want it. It shouldn't work that way. The whole reason we have a democracy set up is that we're all able to vote and decide on what we do to be able to enjoy living here in our United States as free people, as we used to call it. And I just don't think it's right. I really don't. I mean, they shouldn't be ones calling all the shots.
Exactly. Good evening to you, Dollar. I'm glad you can join the show tonight.
Evening, boss man. How are you?
I'm doing excellent myself. What do you think of the point I made earlier? Because Mother Trucker brought up a good point about the whole decision over derating versus not derating. Would something like that really make a big difference with you now? I mean, I assume you drive a few older trucks, so, or maybe you have ones that'll derate, but how does that fly with you in terms of figuring out now they're putting that rule into effect that could very well never have been necessary to begin with? What do you think of that?
Well, my opinion is California already has a smog problem. So why are we putting a state in charge of the EPA that cannot get their smog problem under control?
Well, the EPA will have you thinking that it's not California running them; they run themselves. Depends on who you talk to when it comes to making that statement.
If you read everything that's come out of the EPA, it has been California based.
Right.
Everything. It doesn't matter what it is. It's all been California based. Your water runoff for your farmers, your emission standards for your trucks.
One of the things that was recently disclosed, I think, trying to remember where I saw it, was that they were trying to actually dissolve the CARB. There's efforts being considered to try to actually dissolve that because, it's putting California in a position where they've got too much power.
Well, and the state of California, if you go back and look at their, you want to hold everything to what they're doing, go back and look at their balance on their account, on their state. They have borrowed more money from the federal government than any state in the United States because they are broke. Because everybody's trying to keep up with these standards that they put in, and they have the money going everywhere else.
True that.
They have a grid that they wanted you to run. Oh, let's do electric cars out here. It'll be great. They have rolling blackouts for a reason.
There you go.
Their grid can't handle it. So why are you going to put electric cars on your standard?
Exactly.
So as far as it bothering me, I mean, out here, it'd be great if they take the derate out because, your truck's going to derate to 50% in 3 hours.
Yeah.
And then after that, so many miles, it's going to derate down to 5 mile an hour where you can't get off the interstate.
Well,
that causes a hazard.
Well, the idea that the truck doesn't derate doesn't really save me. Okay, it may not derate. It doesn't save me anything because in the end, I've still got to get the problem fixed because that hasn't changed. The problem still has to be fixed. It's just now I'm not going to be reduced to 5 miles an hour. Big deal. The only thing that's going to save me as a truck owner is a tow bill. Doesn't save me from having to spend the $8,000 refitting my regen system, which is the core reason the thing regens anyway.
Okay,
Yeah, I
but
don't, I don't like the whole DPF thing anyway. And I'm saying
well,
this because I've got a
let's
bad taste in my mouth. The first truck I owned, you know,
let's break it down. Okay, it's going to cost you $8,000 to redo your DEF system. If you look for the right person, since
that's
they've
conservative.
changed the emission laws,
Yeah,
okay,
right.
now you can take it to a shop and for $3,500 have it deleted.
Yeah.
Well, which is cheaper,
Well, yes, but which is legal?
but with
Because
the
right now there's
2008 emission standards, it still says DEF is illegal in 2009.
well, the reason I started, and I'm glad you brought this up, the reason I started this conversation is because right now it's still illegal to delete your system. What they're fighting in court may change that, but it hasn't been ruled and final yet. So if that changes, your hypothesis or hypothetical would be worth considering. Right now, it's illegal, and they've put people in jail.
Okay.
So
Let's say you talk to a friend of a friend of a friend,
mm-hmm.
and you can get it done. It's
right.
technically, once it's done, you're legal.
Right.
It's just if you cross the scale that you're going to be illegal.
Right. Exactly. It just depends on when you disclose it, where you disclose it, and who you choose not to tell. Speaking of not telling anybody something, oh, hi, Littlefoot. How you doing?
Hey, boss man. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, great. No problem. Let me start you off with a banging question. What's the biggest issue that you think Washington ignores that hits your family the hardest? It's the lead pin question I have in my comment section tonight. So let's start off with asking you that question.
What is it?
What is to you the biggest issue that Washington ignores that hits your family the hardest? Are we talking about one right now, or do you have another in mind?
I'll pass on that one.
Anyone on the panel, if you want to chime in with the answer to that question. I'd also like to hear from those of you in the audience. Put it in the comments if you feel like entertaining a conversation tonight. The reason I do this is for the conversation abroad. So tell me, in your best estimate, all the stories we're talking about tonight affects us all in one way or another. But if you had a choice, what's the biggest issue Washington ignores that you feel hits you the worst?
My right to make money.
Yeah, I was kind of going down that way too. They cram all these rules on us and everything else that eliminates how long we could actually work with when people like me, Dollar, we know our limits.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not only that, but you own a truck, you pay $550 for a heavy use road tax every year.
Right.
And quote me, you might have to help me with the number, boss man, but you said there's like 2 million drivers out here, correct?
3.5 statistically, but they haven't been updated
Okay,
in a while.
we'll go 3.5. We'll take 1.5 million of them as owner operators, small companies of 10 trucks or less. Where does that money go? Because it sure as hell ain't on the roads.
Well, you got to realize that 550 HUT payment, that doesn't follow the driver, that follows the vehicle.
Okay,
So,
but if you have this many drivers, that means you should have that many vehicles.
Okay, but your basis is slightly flawed because you asked about how many people are on the road. That's drivers. There's approximately, last statistic or census, well over 12 million trucks. So, yeah,
okay,
that's quite a significant jump in the money. So, yeah, with 12 million trucks, that's quite a significant hit on revenue for the.
Where does that money go to get to drive on roads that they want to inspect, that my truck gets beat up going down that road?
I may be wrong, but I think it goes into the general fund. I don't know. I could be wrong.
The reason it was made was to help with the upgrades of roads.
Not specifically. It does directly, yes, because it goes into the into the road maintenance fund or general fund or whatever it's called. I don't know specifically. It's a good thing I actually should research and present you guys with another story. You know, the whole reason for these conversations. But hey, the point you make, a valid one. If we're paying into a system and that money's being squandered, what's it for? So good point you raised. I'm going to move on to one thing real quick. Let's talk about the freight train headed straight for the legal system. This lawsuit against California's partnership that all four of the big guys are involved in, it's saying enough is enough. And I agree. They're dragging California federal court asking for one thing, clarity. Because right now we've got one state setting rules that ripple across every other state. When Washington changes the game, those ripples turn into waves that swamp the entire industry. And here's where I want you to follow the map. California isn't just setting its own standards. It's leveraging its massive market force to those standards to anyone that wants to sell trucks. That means the rule in Sacramento can become a rule in South Dakota, in Maine, in Texas, you name it, anywhere, whether they like it or not. Reuters reporting on this paints a picture like a chess match. But if you read between the lines, their editorial tone leads more toward inevitability. California, as the leader pushing forward, the OEMs have the reluctant participants in this whole game. But I think this misses the reality on the ground. This isn't just reluctance, it's survival. These companies are saying you can't run an industry where one state's politics become everyone else's problem. Could this lawsuit slam the brakes on California's influence? Absolutely. If the court rules in favor of the OEMs, it could draw a hard line, saying state-level environmental mandates stop at the border unless Washington signs off. That's a precedent that wouldn't just change emissions policies, but it would reset the entire balance between state and federal control over trucking. Now tell me, where have you heard this mantra before? And for every driver watching right now, that balance decides what your next truck costs, what technology it uses, and whether you even have the option to buy the kind of rig you want. So if this case tips the scales, we might actually finally see the end of one state dictating the terms for the other 49. And if that happens, well, Golden State's grip on America's highways might finally hit a red light. So here's the next question to you guys. Is this the turning point where trucking takes the wheel back from the politicians? Or do you think it's just another pit stop on California's road to running the whole rap? Well, let me rephrase that, ruining the whole map. Tell me what you think. Thumper, what say you, my friend? Your audio's there you
There we go.
Now I can hear you.
Yeah. I honestly, I don't know. I mean, it's same thing.
We first seen it with this whole now they're taking them to task over the entire legitimacy of car. So think about it. I've said it a couple of videos back, and you fully agreed with this, Thumper. One rule, one set of standards. Ergo, one road, one code. It's a true solution. Hashtag just saying.
Right, and it is. It's just the government can do whatever they want when they want. It don't matter what we think or say, and that's got to change.
Yeah. Steering Wheel says the government has forgotten who pays for everything. They don't even care. Good point, my friend. Thank you for.
Wait. They've never cared who pays for it.
Yep. Highway Trust Fund. Thank you for pointing that out. I couldn't remember what the name of the fund was, but Highway Trust Fund. Thank you for pointing that out to me, my friend. So, yeah. I mean, think about it. One road, one code, I think, goes miles in the right direction to saving us money. But also, think about it. It bleeds down to the consumer. Anyone here disagree with that? I mean, it does. The more it costs me to run my truck and do my job, the more the end consumer pays for that melon, the gallon of milk, the pack of cigarettes, the gallon of gas. Y'all think inflation's bad now? Just what happened? Well, just watch what happens if California wins this case. If California loses this case, do you think it will pull back, I should say, its push on trucking policy? Because think about it. For a while now, it's not only just been emissions, it's been other safety tech. Hell, they've had a lot to do with the recent uptick in, what is it, the word I'm thinking of? Silicon Valley and all the Netrodyne cameras and all that. I mean, hell, 90% of the people out that way are funding most of the safety requirements that you and I balk at 90% of the time. So you think it'll actually do something to push back on all this, or do you think it's just another double down on new tactics? What do you think?
I think it's a tactic, a double down to change it to benefit them so they can control everything.
There's that word, control. I mean, come on now. We've heard it time after time.
Who has the most money is the one that controls it. The one who has the population controls it.
Yeah. It's a true fact. Yeah, can't deny that. So, Grumpy, put your creative hat on for just a minute. Let me ask you a question. How do we balance environmental goals with realistic industry needs? Think about this. You have been running for 25 years. You know what an industry needs and what's too much. So what say you?
Well, I believe I brought this up on your last show, and that is, honestly, if they would start actually making consultations with other drivers, especially us that's been out here for years, then try to make decisions from that and decide stuff, it may work a little bit better in our favor and theirs as well. But kind of like Dollar and Thumper said, we're just kind of like the little pawns on a chess set. Our opinions really doesn't matter a whole lot. So, I disagree with a lot of the stuff that the government does, as you're aware of anyhow. And this is one of the things that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. It is kind of troublesome when you think about it. I mean, really, at the end of the day, there's always a fine line and balancing act when it comes to how to run a trucking business. And every little decision that everyone in Washington makes affects us in a very profound way. And these people don't realize it. And it's not just Washington, it's California, it's all the states. But think about it. The right way, I think, to fix all of this, and any of the panelists with me tonight, chime in, tell me what you think. One road, one code means, I think, personally, it's the way I decipher it, is I think federal law should dictate what happens. Stop leaving this stuff up to the states, especially when you have such a diverse difference of opinions with things like safety technology, emission standards, and other things we will get to later on in this show. You'll see what I mean. But I think federal law should take over in this respect. So should federal law be the ultimate referee for all trucking regulations? What say you, Dollar?
Yeah, I believe it should be. But I also believe that if the federal regulation is going to be the number one standard, you should have a certain number of years of being an owner-operator in order to be in that position.
Clarify that. What do you mean by that?
What do I mean by it? Well, you have people that really don't know nothing about trucking that want to make rules about trucking. They've done it for years. The CDL test for years never matched the test.
Right.
What was in the book never was on the test. Well, why are people that's never been in the trucking industry making a test about an industry?
Right.
So same way applies. If you're going to make the federal government be the standard, the rules, the regulations, what they say goes, then you need somebody that's been in the industry long enough. I mean, you know, could Thumper be in it? Yeah. Could you? Yeah. Could Grumpy? Yeah. Could Littlefoot? Well, I mean, not so much him, but besides that.
Absolutely not. There's a reason why I got it on here. I'm just the rookie. Don't put me in that one.
You know
But,
what?
you
It
know-
don't matter if you're a rookie or if you've got 25 years like Mr. Grumps up here. Your opinion counts.
That's
I
right.
don't care what you say.
You know, if you work for a mega corporation, you're told what they're going to tell you. But
Exactly.
for like a small company like Thumper, Littlefoot, me being an owner operator, you know, you have ideas that will help benefit the industry. That's the whole point. Have an idea that helps prevent the industry from going down the toilet. Make it better for everybody. You know,
After
listen to the drivers, listening to the companies, listening to, you know, because really, are we gaining
Listen to the
anything
guys
by?
that live it every day.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
See, and boss man, hope I didn't cut you off, Dollar. If so, I'm sorry. But there was something that Thumper stated earlier that I'd really like to touch on because he kind of took the words right out of my mouth, and I stand right there with him on it. You asked him earlier about California being able to dictate things all the way around. Well, I can't speak for anybody else on here that may or may not have been through the state of California, but how can we trust them to make proper rules and dictate stuff in our industry when anybody that's driven down, especially from my experience, the 99 in California, you look at all the trash everywhere in the state, you look at all the homeless people everywhere in the state. You know, if they can't keep their own state clean and respectful and everything of that nature, how can we trust them to dictate rules in an industry that runs all across the nation?
Good point. Good point. Very good point. I don't trust anybody that hasn't proven themselves to me one way or the other. I mean, and that could be true of some federal agencies too. I mean, I do make a good case for federal taking over issues like what we're talking about. But think about it. What's in it for them? That is number one. Every single time you talk about rule makers, lawmakers, legislators, senators, House Republicans, whatever, House Democrats, doesn't matter. What's in it for them?
It's the me world, is as I call it, that we're living in. It's well, what
and-
about
well,
me? How about
yeah.
me?
Yeah. And it shouldn't be that way, but that's unfortunately the lifestyle that has basically snuck up on us. And that's the hand we're dealt. So, you know, that being said, I want to welcome Griff. I've been kind of staring at the screen, bouncing around, big show, a lot going on. Griff, thank you for saying hello. Glad you can make it. Once again, he's our premium member. Monetization is on. If you guys want to support the channel in other ways, I certainly welcome it. Sterling Wheel, last 5 years have proven that cheating is the only way to survive in trucking. Not sure I would admit that. There's no long-term career mindset in people anymore. That is very true.
No,
Griff, chiming up.
it's about the money.
Yeah, right. Griff says, yeah, I believe that trucking should run clean, but the method of doing so should not make it more expensive on repair and other headaches. Yeah, I agree. Eric Jensen. Hey, Grumpy. You have a fan, Grumpy. So, welcoming
Thank you for
Eric.
joining us, Eric.
Yep, welcoming Eric to the show. Glad you could join us.
I do have one
All right.
thing to say. Maybe we
What's
should
that?
make Boss Man the head of transportation.
You know what? That's not the first time somebody suggested that. I'm enjoying
Got my
myself.
vote.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm enjoying myself on this show too much, so don't give me too big of a head here, okay?
You got my vote, boss man.
I hear you. Well, moving on to the second story. So let me let me give you a little bit of something to feel good about. We can all use that. Now, after talking about California trying to run the whole map, I figure we could all use a little bit of good news. And good news we are talking about. And believe it or not, it comes from a place you'd never expect. The Quick Pick machine at the Wheels Convenience Store in Milford, Connecticut. One of our own, guy truck driver, Waterbury truck, rolling back from Virginia on his way home, pulls in for a pit stop, grabs a ticket, walks away, $100,000 richer. Before you ask, no, it wasn't me. Obviously, I don't live in Connecticut. My phone number's Connecticut, but it wasn't me. If it had been, this live show would be coming to you from a 45-foot luxury motor coach instead of where it's at. So 4 of the 5 numbers on the guy's ticket matched. On August 6th, base prize, 50 grand. Doubled it up. He'd already played it, did it the right way, so he won 100 grand. And instead of blowing it on chrome stacks, he decked out a decision to do things the right way. In the trucking spirit, he used it to lift up his family. He said, work hard, get a little lucky, and keep your priorities in the right lane. That quote come from him. So here's my question for you guys. If you guys hit $100,000 tomorrow, would you keep on trucking? Or would you take a vacation or tell dispatch you suddenly developed an allergy to freight? What would you do? Thumper, you first. What would you do?
Oh, I'd keep working.
$100,000, you wouldn't let that bother you, huh?
Well, it don't matter. You're gonna blow through $100,000 as fast as you get it anyways. So, I mean, yeah, pay your bills, your debt, and then just keep working. Then at least you're ahead, and then whatever's left over, put it in an account for like if you ever get sick or something along those lines. Then you got a little cushion money.
Hey, you never know. Happens to the best of us sometimes, right? Grumpy, what about you? What would you do?
Well, first off, I'd make sure that I paid up all my debt, just like Thumper was saying. And then I would probably help out reputable charities, some. And then I would hold on to a little bit for rainy days whenever I need it. Because, as you know, I've had some pretty rainy days in my life and my career. So that's what I would do.
Yeah. Well, you don't often hear about truckers getting the best in life. So hearing a story like that certainly makes me feel good. I'll tell you that. What would you do, Dollar, if you, being dollars in your name, if you got 100 grand, would you put it to good use or would you just use it all by yourself? What would you do?
I would just get myself closer to being out of debt. $100,000, I wouldn't not start my truck. I'd be like, okay, let's get a load out there so we can claim this.
For a second, I was kind of with you because it sounded like you were the first one, questioned tonight that actually would have made a sensible decision. Because think about it, $100,000, that could go a long way to doing a lot of good for you. I mean, if you're in debt, that is.
If I was debt free and won $100,000, I would use the money as a rainy day fund. And this just being words,
Yeah.
If Thumper come and said, hey, I would like to buy a truck, I would definitely consider helping out a fellow trucker.
Right.
Because one, I didn't earn the money. I'd still be trucking, but I'd have the money to sit and play with.
Yeah. I walked around the truck stop this morning and seen 25 paper sign truckers out of 150 trucks. I'm not sure how to interpret that.
Please
don't
clarify.
know exactly what that means. You're welcome to clarify that because I'm not sure what that means, but 100,000 is 46 after taxes, pay off debt, and buy gold. Good answer. I like that. Yeah, I'd certainly be
No,
interested
I
to
would
know
tell
what
them I
that.
ain't paying the taxes until I file at the end of the year.
Well, no, because in order to claim the prize, they take it right off the top. They cut you a check less the tax.
Well, my EIN number is the same as my personal EIN number is the same as my business. So, nope, leave it alone.
Yeah, yeah. All right, let's
We would
get
go
on the
to court
ridiculous
because
side.
it's not my right.
Let's get on the ridiculous side. What's the one ridiculous trucking related thing you blow a chunk of that money on? Littlefoot, what say you?
Nothing.
Oh, stop it.
Nope. Absolutely wouldn't. What
Huh?
I would do with that money would be, you know, I'm with Thumper for sure on that one, and Grumpy. I'd stay working, and because all that would tell me right there is that gave me a good safety net to help take care of my kids.
Well, good answer, but that precludes the fact that my question means you're going to blow it all on one thing. I mean, I'll be honest with you. If I came into 50 grand, which is my cut, I would take me and the wife out on the best dinner, the best vacation, whatever. Because putting up with me, she's kind of earned it. And, that's just me. But that's not going to cost me 50 grand. That's a small piece of it. I mean, come on. Think about it. The people around you, the people that help you, that are part of your life, doesn't hurt to take a little something out of that and recognize their hard work, right?
At that point, I'd make sure that the people that have been there to help and support and stand behind me have felt that has been returned.
Well, that shows in your personality, but good answer. I fully agree with that.
50 grand could make one heck of a block party.
Paper company signs and DOT numbers are illegal. I thought that's what he meant, but I wanted to give him the opportunity to clarify that. Yeah. We'll talk about that one later, dear. Anyway, he goes on to say, and she knows what I'm talking about too, because I'm reading the comments. The only trucking thing I would buy is a new seat, better bed, Starlink. All right. Well, at least we're getting some ideas drafted here. So, hey, look, we're truckers. We need comfort. We need the good stuff. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, let me move on to the reason, 48 minutes in, that y'all tuned in tonight. Our feature story coming right at you. So let's talk about trucking in the worst way ever. This next story ain't about just a truck. It's about the exact opposite. It's about a North Texas family that ran out of luck, unlike the second story, on a highway they should have been safe on. It's about a trucking company that should have been off the road, but somehow, if you saw the open of this video and this live show, you know exactly what I'm talking about. They kept on hauling U.S. mail. This is the one you can't miss. All right? You couldn't miss it with somebody else's bad story. Now, just for what it's worth, I'm going to play part of the beginning of that clip, and we can talk about it on the other end.
Five lives were lost, 4 from the same family on this stretch of interstate in Terrell. Police say the driver told them he fell asleep, and there are serious questions about whether that driver and Hope Trans, the company he was driving for, should have been hauling it at all. The driver asked us to conceal his identity, but says he warned Covenant about Hope Trans a week before the crash.
I next day shipped it from Atlanta all the way to Phoenix off of 3 hours of sleep.
A second former Hope Trans driver reached out after seeing our July 2nd report.
They don't care about rules. They just care about dropping off the load and making that money.
Companies like this, they just do not care about the law.
Both truckers we spoke to say they only worked for Hope Trans for a few weeks. The company still has not responded to requests for comment.
If I kept driving for this company, this is how I was going to end up.
For now, Hope Trans is still authorized to haul freight on the nation's interstates.
They lay out what I think is purely ridiculous. Arrest warrants were issued, whistleblowers describing how coffee was code for illegal drive time, not even part of the story, and federal contracts flowing like nothing had ever happened. The safety scores were public, the violations were known, the risk was obvious, and still, the freight kept moving. Hope Trans eventually got shut down, just recently, I think. But this isn't just a one-off. This is stuff that happens when oversight is broken. One of the things I wanted to point out tonight. When enforcement's fragmented and the accountability stops at the driver's seat instead of the halls of justice. Tonight we're going to take a dig into exactly how this company kept rolling, and more importantly, what it's going to take to make sure no other family ends up as a statistic because a dangerous carrier found a loophole big enough to back a double into. Let me be crystal clear about something. This channel will never turn away from stories like this. Not now, not ever, because every time a dangerous company stays on the road when it shouldn't, a family pays the price for its negligence. That's a direct hit to the heart of trucking. And if we don't talk about it now, if we don't make a decent conversation about meaningful change, this stuff's going to keep happening. And you know what? You're not alone. There are other voices out there. I'm not the only one. This isn't the only channel. Bonehead Truckers, Mother Trucker, countless other trucking channels have raised the very thing I'm talking about tonight. And it needs more sunlight. Sunlight is disinfectant. Other trucks, other journalists, other people doing the same thing. But the reason we keep coming back to these stories isn't because we enjoy the outrage. It's because of the small and slow action of the people at the top, the leaders that make excuses, that wait, that hesitate, and tiptoe around the problem because it's just possibly going to offend somebody. Let's call it for what it is. The blame sits squarely in Washington. No one else. It's a combination of people. I'm not naming names here, but it's not just Sean Duffy. It's not just one politician or one bureaucrat. It's the entire damn system. The system itself needs an overhaul. Comment down below if you agree with me. Call our studio line. I'll put it up here in a minute. If from the FMCSA to the DOT and every agency that looks the other way while these loopholes get wider, the tools are already in place. We can take these bad actors down. But the question remains why we don't. And who benefits? We certainly don't. It's not the small business owner trying to play by the rules. It's the forgotten men and women out here. The investors with no skin in the game. The carriers who treat safety as an optional expense. Companies with track records that scream profit over people and hold unfair advantages because they know no one will stop them. These are the people we need to get out of this industry. They're the ones that are being like that Cuban national on the highway, claiming he fell asleep, driving for a company that forces him to run team hours on a solo clock. I'm telling you right now, until these people get out of the way and the people with the real power move the needle, this cycle is going to continue. We're going to be talking about story after story after story. Nothing will change if people don't change. But here on Frontlines, we're not just waiting for permission to tell the truth. We're going to do it. We're going to keep naming names. We're going to keep exposing the patterns and pushing this conversation where it needs to go, whether Washington or bureaucrats like it or not. So tell me in the chat, if companies, foreign owned, or its investors with no U.S. operations keep running and we keep getting the results, should they be restricted or barred from even working in the States? You tell me. I'd like to hear your answer. Grumpy, I'll come to you first on this one. What do you think? Do you think we should be just cutting them off at the knees, not allowing them to run the streets, knowing they don't respect the industry, the laws, or the lifestyle? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, stuff like this should never happen. I mean, safety is key, and communication is another key. And no driver should ever, ever, ever push themselves beyond the time that they have to drive. And even if you have the time to drive, you need to be, able to drive that time. If you are tired in any way, stop. Tell that company, look, I can't do this, and it's illegal for me to continue, and take a break, rest. If it's equipment problems, you need to make sure it's taken care of, because it's your responsibility as a driver, whether you're an owner, operator, or a company driver, to make sure that equipment is safe to operate on our highways.
Yep. 860-785-3547 is our studio line. 860-785-3547. Talking about a most recent accident, obviously, the one involving Hope Trans. Accident in Texas, killed family of 5. So let me ask you, Thumper, do you think the FMC, if I can talk, do you think the FMCSA has the right tools to fix this? Or do you think our whole system, like I suggested earlier, needs a complete overhaul? What do you think?
It needs an overhaul.
Mm-hmm.
There's no fixing this. I mean, look what they're doing now. They add more regulations. Guess what happens? More accidents happen.
Yeah.
They really need to sit down and figure all this stuff out. And then earlier you had said something about barring people and this and that. That's all fine and dandy, but they're going to come under a different name. They're going to come back and just come under a different name and do the whole process all over again. If you could start eliminating how easy it is to get into the industry, maybe stuff might start changing.
Well, think about it from a perspective of starting right the first time. Okay? Personally, disagree with me if you want, but personally, I think it's too damn easy to become a truck driver.
That's what I just said.
Well, and I'm agreeing with you. I'm saying, personally, I think that we should more than double our standards for what it takes for people to get into the industry, to be trained, to be required to be looked after. I've said more than not about insurance requirements being too lax.
There's another issue out there that really doesn't get shown as well or as much as it should. And it's the same thing that we argue about from week to week about the government. There's people out here running trucking companies that have never been in a truck before.
True that.
They don't know what it's like being on the road. They don't know what it's like driving tired.
Yep. Exactly.
But then again, that falls on the driver. This driver wants to blame the company because he only got 3 hours of sleep. Well, you know what, buddy? I hate to tell you, you're the captain of the ship. You could choose whether that truck moves or doesn't.
You're the one that
so you're just as reliable as the company.
Yep. Sterling Wheels says accident lawyers make just as much as trucking companies. It's hard to see if anything is going to change. Well, you know what? And here lately, with all of the court cases and everything that we're reading about, it seems like the lawyers are making better money than the trucking companies. So I don't know. Dollar, what do you think? Do you think that we have the tools necessary, or do you think like Thumper does?
Just a minute. Skip me.
Okay. Littlefoot, what say you?
I'm right there with what Thumper had to say. I mean, It all kind of comes down to you're the captain of the ship.
Yeah.
And, you know, if he's saying, oh, well, I only got 3 hours of sleep. Okay, well, if you're doing a 10-hour off, what did you do with that other 7 hours?
Yeah. Exactly.
What were you doing instead of getting sleep and resting like you were supposed to operate that vehicle safely?
Exactly.
At that point, it looks to me like it comes down to poor driver choices.
Right. Well, I'm going to touch on a couple of other things as we progress through this segment. So keep that thought right front and center of mind. Griff says it's not just Washington, it's the states too, like California, with the most recent accident in, well, okay, I was going to mention that accident in Florida. Driver had an illegal U-turn. You know what? That's just one of many examples. And Griff, thank you for pointing that out. I mean,
no. There's a lot of stuff that people don't read into that. We just had this conversation last night, and I showed you a news article from Florida, and they threw the government under the bus. The only reason why those guys have a CDL is because ICE gave it to them.
Why did
Our
you
government
steal my?
is
Because
doing.
I was gonna wait till later to bring that up, but I'm glad you said it. But
No, because it's gonna be the whole talk for the next couple of weeks. I guarantee it, boss man. If we don't straighten it out now with that news article.
Well, it's not just one outfit though. And notice
No,
I'm doing this. It's not just one outfit. It's not just ICE. It's the DMV. It's the local governments. It's the sanctuary cities. It's a combination of things.
Florida threw the government under the bus, saying that they allowed this through the ICE program. You read the same article I did because I sent it to you.
Right. One important fact you're not mentioning, though. Where did those people in Florida get their license? California.
Yeah, but again,
the dude crossed the border. He arrived in the country in 2018, went to California, got his CDL without the required documents, and did so, as far as I'm concerned, the wrong way. We shouldn't be doing that. But then he drives all the way across the country for how many years, and then finally makes a mistake like that and kills 3 people. So
but the point,
age.
you're not getting the point that I'm saying.
Yeah.
The government was thrown under the bus, but yet, look what we've been talking about. The government's trying to figure out, they realize they fucked up, but they're trying to figure out somebody else to blame.
They're looking for cover, and they always do.
And Florida threw them under the bus saying that, hey, no, we fucked up.
Yeah, I'm not blowing cover for anybody. All I'm saying is, you know, it starts with what we've just been through for the last 12 years, basically. Well, no, 16 years. And I'm not going to make this a political discussion. I'm just saying we've been through it long enough. I've said for years we needed to straighten out our borders and our immigration policy. Nobody's done it. And even the current administration isn't doing it fast enough. So that's another conversation, another video. All the laws are present. Enforcement is the issue. Amen. Fully agree. Fresno. I like the last word choice. It indeed is organized crime. I don't care how you slice it. Okay, so let's shift gears for just a second. What one policy do you think, more kind of to what I was just talking about a minute ago, what one policy change do you think would be the closest and biggest loophole exploited by these people that are getting behind the wheel? Like we just talked about, that one thing that, if discovered, we could close tomorrow. What do you think that is?
Getting free stuff.
Well, I mean, no, and I was hoping somebody would pick up on this whole domicile issue, non-domicile CDLs. I don't even think that needs to be a thing. And I'm keying in on that question because I heard Bonehead say it in one of his videos, and I've heard it raised on other trucking channels. Non-domicile CDLs is the single biggest threat to our industry. because it allows for people to just claim they've got the experience that they don't really have. Think about it. If you come over from a foreign country, you can get a CDL and you don't have to prove you're trained. I think that's, aside from the language factor, one of the reasons we're having the problems we're having.
Well, yeah, because they can't read the signs, so that does help.
There's a small problem with what I see you're talking about. I know what you're talking about. And the problem is cross-border trade. The moment you start limiting H-1B1s, you make cross-border trade extremely difficult. Now, to that, I'll say this. Like others have said, the moment you cross in from Mexico or Canada, you need to pick up and go, not run the states. Currently, there's no enforcement. People with H-1s can come over, land in Laredo, go somewhere else, pick up a load, run all the way clear across to North Carolina if you want. And they've seen it, video documented evidence that they've done it before. And no one's enforcing it. No way stations care. No DOT officers question it. It just happens. So, Sterling, good point. But I think we need to drastically change the enforcement behind H-1B1. But the problem is, if you eliminate it, then how do we get imports? Aside from getting them off the ships, which you can't run it strictly through ports of entry. There's got to be ways drivers can actually hook up and trade. So
they come over across the border, they can hit a hot dock.
Well, yeah.
What they've done for years down in Laredo.
But in order to cross that border and get through the checkpoint, you need a visa. You need to just do that.
Yep.
So that's the point I'm making. Yeah, if you're not careful, you don't do it right. It would really mess with trade. So, not that it's already screwed up enough. Let's not make it worse. Let me bring up a sensitive topic: self-policing. Because honestly, who better to police our industry than our very own? So let me ask you, can self-policing ever replace government enforcement? Because in the case of what we're talking about tonight, they're just not doing it. So to listen to Ike Stevens, he's talking about InfoWars and doing all this other stuff. He's really going on a crusade. So it brings me to think, well, what if we police our own? What do you guys think about that? Don't everybody talk at once. This is a talk show, you know.
I was sitting there talking. I didn't realize I was muted. Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're not playing games on you.
It's it'll turn ugly if we police ourselves.
Yep.
It really will, because there are some people out there that are really trying to think of the word to put it in.
Yeah. Agree or disagree? Give our studio line a call.
Prejudiced about certain people.
Go ahead.
Really prejudiced about certain people, so it would turn ugly if they police themselves.
Well, I think people, honestly, when it comes to safety, I think we can get beyond that.
I don't think so.
No, because there are some legal people. Think about it. There are legal immigrants that drive truck, that do an outstanding job. Outstanding representatives of our industry. But then there are the people like that guy down on Florida Turnpike, like the one in Morgantown, West Virginia, like the one in Austin, Texas, Chattanooga. Need I go on?
It's people that are like that gives them all bad reputation. That's why you can't have us police them, because it's going to turn ugly because somebody's just going to assume that they're not legal.
Well, why make an assumption if you see illegal? I mean,
really, boss man?
I mean, no. I mean, if
no,
you
look at the time we're in now.
Well, I mean,
people making assumptions. It happens all the time.
True, it does. But I mean, what's to assume about somebody ripping off a DOT number and putting up a new one? That's obviously questionable. There's no assumption there.
It happens all the time.
Exactly. And 90% of them run out of Illinois. You gotta say more. I mean, come on. Something's got to give, because obviously the federal government isn't equipped to do it. They're not moving fast enough, and no one else cares. So yeah, we're going to have to experience a little bit of pain, but why not? As far as I'm concerned, a little bit of pain and a little bit of discomfort is better than 5 people in Austin losing their lives.
Oh, I agree too. No, I agree, but I'm saying the fact of it is people assume all the time, and it's going to turn ugly if we do it. If the government says, okay, you know what, you guys deal with it.
Yeah.
I mean, shit. Even nowadays, you do see it in the big truck stops. You see people getting ripped out of their own trucks because they looked at them wrong. Heck,
Yep.
the other day, a guy got he went to the hospital with fatal injuries over a parking spot.
Yeah. Yep. I know we all remember that story. That was just somebody getting overheated, pissed off. I think is what it turned out to be.
Yeah, but look, that's what I'm saying. We can't police ourselves because there are bad apples out there that will take it too far.
Well, something's got to give. I mean, honestly, I mean, I agree with what you're saying. It's a touchy subject.
Sounds like a great way to start another internal war, is what it is.
Well, I mean, if you listen to a certain segment, something's got to give. And I'm using that term carefully because, I mean, as I said earlier, the federal government ain't doing enough. They're not doing it fast enough. And honestly, the only way I feel to honestly ferret out all the bad actors is for those people that know what to look for actually look for it. I mean, Grumpy, you've been in the business 25 years. I mean, if you see something that just really does not look right, are you going to walk away from it and say nothing, or are you going to actually get involved and do the right thing and say something? I mean, think about it. You care about your industry, do you not? You want what's best, not for just you at the moment. And this isn't a greed question. This is just a perspective question. How the hell can you feel good about making it an industry better when you look at something and say nothing? What would you do?
Problem is, if I had to go out and police myself, I would not get any trucking done and lose my company, because everybody, and I mean everybody, that doesn't hold the same standards as I do, I'm going to tell them. And they're not going to listen. That's the problem. You can have everybody and their dog tell everybody, but they're not going to listen.
I mean, yeah, I mean, to a degree, no. You're right. But, you know, a lot of this comes down to enforcement. The federal agencies should be enforcing these things. So, you know, part of the angle I approach from, and I have all these shows on, is, well, we need to enforce, we need to hold accountable those individuals that are not enforcing the laws they committed to enforce. You know, so one degree of self-policing is doing just that.
See that, and another perspective to add to this, boss man. Dollar Thumper, how long have you guys been in the industry?
All my life. My
Okay.
dad's been trucking since I was born.
Yeah,
okay.
they've been in it quite a while.
Well, then think about it this way. I've been driving, knocking on 7 years. If somebody like me walks up and tells you you're not doing something right, are you going to listen?
Hold on. 7 years and you're only 25?
6, 7, not going on 7 years. It's been 6 years. I will be going on 7.
Look, numbers are irrelevant. The fact is he's a rookie and he's asked a question. And he made a good point by the question.
I
What do you mean? I don't understand that. Okay. I mean, ask the question again, Littlefoot.
If somebody with way lesser experience, like Dollar, if me at 6 going on to 7 years driving came up to you and told you you weren't following rules, you were doing something wrong, what is your response to me going to be?
Go out and get more fucking experience because you're dumb.
Most people, I think, would say it the same way. I tend not to take any serious guff from anybody who's just gotten in the industry. But now I'm going to play devil's advocate. Why bring that up? Why even make that a question?
Because that's how a lot of guys, senior guys, are going to look at things. You don't
Senior
have the
guys?
experience. Yeah.
Well, when I
to
say,
a point.
well, when I say let's make trucking great again and do it by holding accountable, does it necessarily say that anybody with 2 years experience has less authority to make a point than somebody like me with 15 years?
Well, right,
Or-
but that's also where, like what Dollar had to say earlier, is going to come into play. How do we know that the expectations from guy to guy are the same? Dollar's going to view it differently than I will. Boss man, you're going to view it differently than Thumper will. There's
Everyone
always going to be a difference. So where does it?
Everyone in this equation will. So
where is it going to narrow down?
I hate to make it sound like you're riding an angle that's kind of washing out, but it's almost irrelevant because the numbers behind you are not what's going to enforce the problems. The fact that you're saying something is. See, I don't care whether you've been in the industry 2 years, 5 years, 7 years, 15, 25, it don't matter. If you see something going on that's wrong, that's illegal, that's a bad practice, say something. Whether you have 2 years or not, or 50 years, you're pointing out the obvious is just as valuable, regardless of the amount of years you've got behind you. And that's where I started all this from. And Thumper, I hope you didn't take offense to my questioning. But I'm saying the more we say something, the more the problem gets solved. Irrelevant are the numbers, but important is the design behind getting the job done. Sterling says, nobody wears their experience on their forehead. Nobody wears their experience anywhere. We're all equals here. And the moment we stop saying something and we stop expecting the best out of the people in the front of the line, which are the lawmakers, are the people that actually are paid to protect us, the firefighters, the police officers, the DOT, that's when everything goes the way it's been going. We need to hold their feet to the fire. We need to make sure they're doing the job the way it should be. Here's the last point I'm going to make before we close tonight's show. Would you support, put it in the comments, call our studio line, let me know, 860-785-3547. Would you support a nationwide one strike and you're out policy for companies tied to fatal crashes? Grumpy, what say you? Would you support that kind of policy? One strike, you're done, lose your license and your privileges.
Yes. I mean, especially if it involves something as serious as what we're talking about tonight. I mean, there's no sense in allowing somebody to do something like that ever again, because they don't belong on the highway. I mean, just a little touch on the Florida thing.
Yeah.
You know, they don't belong on the highway if they can't follow all the laws and stuff that we have to as drivers that's been out here 20, 30, 40, 50 years. You know, and there are some still out here that's been here driving since back in the 60s that should be retired but are not.
Yep.
You know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Well,
what about you,
I'm going to
Thumper?
tell you. Go ahead.
Okay. I'll keep going around. Let me go ahead, Dollar. You were gonna say something.
I'm going to take what Grumpy thinks because, you're going to get rid of a guy because he has an accident. We're not going to factor in the way cars treat trucks because, you can be the best driver in the world, but a car cuts you off and slams on his brakes and you don't react in time and run it over. You're going to lose your license because nobody wants to go back and check out what actually happened.
What do you think?
I'm gonna have to agree with Dollar on that one. There's got to be some circumstances on there because just put another theory out there. You're out driving around and you're in perfect health or whatever, and all of a sudden you have a heart attack and you go in the ditch and wipe out another car and there's a fatality in that. You're gonna shut a company down and discipline the driver for a medical reason? No.
Well, I see your point there. But what I'm tying that question to is not necessarily so much what Grumpy said. I'm tying that question to the story involving Oak Trans. Dude, have you seen the list of violations that company has? Damn.
In that situation, yes, but in a situation in general is what I was going with. Because as soon as you sign up and get a Class A, it doesn't matter if you get a Class A to go help a farmer every fall. You're automatically guilty, no matter what you do.
Right. Yeah.
So when you think that way, it's hard that you're taking the human factor out of it. But now a company like that has a list of violations like they do, yes, then there's a good chance to automatically assume they're guilty.
Yeah. Well, Sterling's couple of comments. One in particular, he's like, no, because accidents happen. But Sterling, do realize, as I just told Thumper a minute ago, Hope Trans, I kid you not, has a list of violations that would make Clinton's excuses look like a serious book. Okay? Just saying.
Yeah, it just all depends on the circumstance, honestly.
True.
And that's what I said earlier.
Yeah, oh yeah. Oh, I know. Yeah, you're clarifying a good point there. So,
but yeah, it's just I don't want people sitting there thinking, well, that's unfair because, like the example that I said.
Yeah.
If it's a medical or like Dollar said, you're not. You weigh 80,000 pounds and you got to slam on the brakes. 80,000 pounds don't stop on a dime.
Yep.
There's circumregulations, but if you got caught with a lot of these accidents we cover, they're because the invisible co-driver and stuff like that. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. One of the things I wanted to mention tonight, because all these stories have one thing in common, and that's the very loopholes that have existed for years now that have even allowed them to get where they are. I got no problem with people making a buck. I got no problem with people in this country legally getting their businesses set up, giving everybody in the industry the same advantages. Now, there have been loopholes for years that have existed that allow people like Hope Trans and other companies to get into the situations we're talking about tonight. But moreover that, and just as dangerous, is the uneven level of competition that exists with people that are not following the same set of standards everyone else in the industry is. And that was one of the things I wanted to touch on tonight.
How many?
Because that's one of the reasons I think everybody has it so hard nowadays is because there is such an uneven playing field. So, I'll leave you guys to discuss
How many
that for a
trucks do
moment.
they have?
What do you? Hope Trans, I think last check they had not much. I think they had something like 30, 40. I don't remember the report. It's been a while since I've seen that report.
Where are they out of?
Well, that depends. Before the accident, they were out of Seattle. After the accident, they're out of Orlando, Florida. That's the other thing. They changed their address, evading capture or whatever. One of the loopholes, one of the conditions says that if you want to hold a DOT number, you have to have a physical address. The Seattle address was an apartment building. I think that's a dead giveaway. No apartment building. It needs to be a physical address, and it needs to be a business, not a house. But that's a whole nother
Well, that puts
conversation.
me out of work too, because
Yeah,
my address is my house.
Yeah. I mean, for the single owner operator like you and me, we got no choice. Big difference between Hope Trans having lots of power units, running a USPS postal contract worth over $40 million, and they're listing an apartment building in Tacoma, Washington. No, I stand corrected. No, it was a workforce office building that was no more than like a Zoom meeting place. That's what it was, according to the WFAA report. It was like a staffing office. Had no business housing a trucking company. But that's what memory says. But the address they changed it to in Orlando, that was an apartment. So, I mean, even trying to remember who it was. One of the people got on the news and said, owner operators, single truck operators, they need obviously list homes. That's understandable and legal. There's no problem with that. But multi-truck operations like 100 power units like that and many others, it needs to be someplace they can audit, because you've got a lot of power units. Unless you can actually house that many trucks, which a lot of people can. Just depends on the kind of property you live at. But I mean, semantics all day long. How do you beat a system like that? And by that, the way I'm asking the question, I'm talking about it's a loophole people are using, and look what's happening. That's the thing I'm at. I mean, because we got to do something. To make trucking great again, we've got to make it safer. And the best way to make it safer is to get rid of the loopholes. Last comment, a point I'll make. Every accident is preventable, but people will always make mistakes. Very good point. Grumpy, you got anything to add to that? That was a very wise statement from a very good friend in the audience.
No, I'm good.
You're good, huh? You're going to get quiet on me all of a sudden. I know. I'm running long, and you've got things you want to do. Littlefoot, any last words?
I think I'm kind of poking at something that was already said, but just to kind of put it in a different range of words. Thumper and Dollar, I really liked how they said it just a little bit ago. But when it comes down to taking away a driver's privileges and stuff like that after an accident, I think that it comes down to if it can be pointed at driver negligence. Then yes, then I'm in agreement that yes, if it was a mistake on the driver's part, then yeah, for sure. But we've all been in them scenarios where you're loaded, you're going down the road, doing what you're supposed to, and somebody just jumps in front of you. So to a point, again, you got to keep it in mind. These things don't stop on a dime. So. So to a point, how much is within that driver's control? If you're locking the brakes down, doing everything you can, and you still hit them because they didn't grant you that area, that room, they jumped into a spot they shouldn't have, how can you hold the driver accountable for that?
You have to, because you're responsible. So, but that's a whole different discussion for a whole different show, my friend. We'll take that up as time permits. Good point you make, though. Dollar, what say you? Any last parting thoughts?
Any last party thoughts? Oh, I got several of them, but we'll make it easier and simple.
Hey,
to protect yourself, have a dash cam. Whether the company provides ones or not, buy one on your own to protect yourself.
Wow. Run the gamut, guys. We've kicked off one of the biggest names in trucking, Daimler, suing California, take them to court in a case that could decide whether one state calls the shots for everybody else. We had a little fun with a guy winning lottery and experienced an idea there. And we talked about this deadly USPS crash on dangerous loopholes that let high-risk carriers keep rolling long after it should have been parked for good. But the thread to all of it is power. Who has it, how they use it, and why it even matters to everybody. Whether it's in Sacramento or Washington or corporate boardrooms, when leadership is slow to act or chooses not to act at all, the rest of us pay the price. In that case, what do you think?
Dollar couldn't have said it any better, and I've always said it too. You're the captain of the ship. You could choose whether you could drive or not. If they put those back-to-back loads on you, again, there's other jobs out there. It's not worth risking your life or anybody else's lives out there. Yeah. So, again, it's make the right decisions mainly. Yeah. Be smart about it. They can't fire you. They can't fire you over making the right decision, and if they do, you could turn around and go to the labor board. It's gonna work in your favor regardless. So, true. But I mean, on that note, God bless everybody: EMTs, firefighters, military personnel. They don't get the love that they deserve and whatnot. I mean, we wouldn't be here without them. And just like anything, I don't have Bo with me today. He's outside, so I'm actually at home today. But yeah, we don't do it just for us and our families. We do it for you guys.
Amen to that. Well said. But speaking of firefighters, there's one in specific that I'm going to say a good prayer for, and that's my brother. My brother Timothy was recently taken ill and isn't doing well. He is improving, but if you'll say a prayer for him for quick recovery and healing, I'd be grateful to you guys. On that, here on Frontlines, we're not just waiting for someone else to tell these stories, we're calling them out and shining a light on the loopholes, the questions, and the hard things everyone needs to know. Do me a favor, subscribe, share, like, tell everyone you know about this program. Look for us next time. Till then, remember, it's the trucks that make the deliveries, but it's you that make the difference. While you're out there, guys, keep it upright, keep it going, and keep it rolling.